I enjoyed the privilege of getting to know Tammy Lindhal and working alongside her in ministry during her time at First Met as the Minister of Spiritual Care. Tammy is a person who is authentic and kind. She leads with her heart, and she cares passionately for her work as a United Church minister. In the mid-1980s, Tammy was ordained as a minister of the Presbyterian Church in the U.S. She also studied social work and holds a master's degree. Tammy has spent her life dedicating herself to social justice and lifting those on the margins of society. She joined First Met as a minister of spiritual care in August 2013, and in May 2018, her ordination was transferred to the United Church of Canada. During her time at First Met United Church, Tammy made many strong connections with the congregation. She worked with volunteers to establish the Visitation Volunteer Ministry. She worked closely with the Prayer Connection team and led special worship services. She supported the annual camp, developed the Blue Christmas service as we know it today, and the list could go on. Tammy offered pastoral care to many individuals, families, and oversaw celebrations of life. In short, Tammy made an enormous impact on the hearts of this congregation. In July of 2018, Tammy was called to the ministry of Augsburg Mackenzie and Emmanuel United Churches in Bella Coola. While it was hard to say goodbye, her friends at First Met supported her in her new adventure. This spring, our congregation learned that Tammy would be stepping back from her role in Bella Coola to return to her family in Victoria. The First Met congregation member Alva Johnson approached the spiritual care and wellness team with the idea of honoring Tammy's dedication and legacy to ministry by fundraising to refurbish the palliative care room at the Bella Coola Hospital. We set the goal of $3,000, and I am incredibly pleased to report that we exceeded that with a running total of $3,800 for the refurbishment and supply of new pastoral care resources and materials for that room. These funds will be combined with the funds from the other Bella Coola churches who have partnered with us in this fundraising initiative. Tammy, on behalf of our congregation, I would like to offer our deepest gratitude for the impact you have made in your many years of ministry. Thank you. Please join me in thanking Tammy.
I'm right behind you. I'd like to invite Tammy up, and thank you, Kyla, for that heartfelt appreciation. It has been a blessing to work with other churches in Bella Coola for this project, to continue and to honor your work. And so this certificate says, in recognition of Reverend Tammy Lindhal's years of pastoral care to the congregations of First Metropolitan, Emmanuel, and Augsburg Mackenzie United Churches, and August 2022, donation was given in love and gratitude to support palliative care at the Bella Coola Hospital. And that's signed by myself and Adina Malcolm, our chair. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So, Tammy's going to say a few words.
Sheila, actually Joan and Elva had invited me to be here just to say a few words. And Sheila sent me an email saying just a few words. And living 4 years in Bella Coola, when I first arrived there, I was told by one of our wise elders that we value people who just speak from the heart. And they said, we've had a lot of ministers who are pretty smart, but they were book smart. And they read to us from a script. And they said, what we love is when you just share your heart. And so today, and the other thing I've learned is time has different meaning in a First Nations community. In a community where there are so many deaths, there were often comfort services several days ahead of the funeral that oftentimes started 1 to 2 hours late. You got to know community in that time. You got to spend time sharing stories and finding out what's going on in their lives. And the other thing that they taught me in that is, in not having a script, but trusting that the Creator, that the Spirit will guide your words. So in that spirit, I don't have a time frame. If you have a hook when you need me off the stage, you let me know.
I've got a coffee, don't worry.
I don't know that everyone else has a coffee, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the gifts you have given me. As you know, when I left here, I said you loved me back into parish ministry, which I never dreamt would have happened. But you allowed me the space, the opportunity to come back home. And it was with that foundation that I was able to say yes to my sense of deep call I had to go to Bella Coola. For those of you who may not know the congregations there, the Augsburg congregation is up valley, and it's traditionally been known as the White Congregation. I lived across the street from the Emmanuel congregation on Reserve, and that was known as the New Hawk congregation. And you've also heard the term Mackenzie. Mackenzie was a small congregation next to the hospital that the New Hawk often referred to as, it was the church for the outsiders, which meant usually the people who came in to serve at the hospital. And that tiny little hospital, well, today it's a 15-bed. There are 5 that are long-term care and 10 that are acute care. And one of those has been designated as a palliative care room. And I spent a lot of time there. Because in the valley, you don't leave someone alone when they're dying. You constantly have a vigil, family, friends, community that come together to be with that person. And when Elva first came to me and said, we were thinking about doing this legacy fund, and what would you like it used for? And I thought about that for a while, and I thought, given my years of working in hospice and palliative care, and how the community had come together to create this palliative care room many years ago, and that it was looking really weary. So I went to the head of nursing and I said, so what would be your dream if we did something? And she said, well, it would be nice to have some new curtains. And I said, well, I think we could probably handle that. And there's a lot, the furniture there has gotten quite worn, and the bed is less comfortable that families stay on. So I think we can help that to become even more of a welcoming place, a place of comfort, a place of healing for people in this time. It has been an intense privilege to be in ministry in Bella Coola, and in my plans, would love to have been there for another year or so, but Parkinson's has brought me back to Victoria, where I have access to more support and health care. And there will always be a very special place in my heart with that community. And what that community has taught me, when you live in such a remote area, you really need each other. It's not just a nicety. There's so many, even in the 4 years I was there, it seemed like there was one catastrophe after another. And we needed each other. When the storms went through and took out all of our electricity and the telephone lines, people went around to check on the elders to make sure they were okay. When the wildfires started coming over the mountains, it was there that we gathered together, anyone who had a truck or vehicle, that they could take people out away from that and bring them down to the dock. There's a real sense of coming together. And I was reminded often that let me put it this way, the church and the manse on reserve. On one side of the church was where the Indian residential school was. And on the other side of the church and manse was where the Indian agent lived. So you're constantly reminded of the role we've played in that and how important the healing of those relationships are. And I want to thank Robin for the acknowledgement. So often you hear acknowledgements that are 1 or 2 sentences. But with this, it is a deeper understanding of why we spend that time making those acknowledgements. So I want to say thank you again. From my heart, you are very special. And I know they're very excited to receive this gift. You've already, Elva and Earl brought up the books you donated that are going to be a part of the resource library for patients, families, and the staff, and on grief and loss and end-of-life care. So First Met will live in that community through your gifts. Thank you. As they say in New York,